I was just looking at a job posting, and it said something like textile, leather, and footwear researcher. And I was like, what?
Really?
Yeah, and it got me thinking, like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
it really piqued my interest, and it just so happens that that's what our deep dive is today. We are talking about textile, leather, and footwear researchers thanks to RoleCatcher. All the information for this week's deep dive is from them.
Excellent.
And so, yeah, what do those types of researchers, what do they do?
It's a pretty cool job, actually.
Mhm.
When you think about it, everybody wears clothes
Right, it's very universal.
and shoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they do is they're really the bridge between the science and the innovation of new materials
Mm.
and making that connect to the products that we use every single day.
Yeah.
So I always say, think about the clothes you put on or the shoes that you're wearing or a purse or a wallet or anything. Anything that's made out of those materials, those researchers are the ones who kind of make that happen.
Wow. But not just sitting in a lab somewhere, you're actually like,
Out there making stuff.
yeah, well, I mean, they do a lot of work in the lab, so you're right about that.
Okay.
But it's not just about the lab, right? They have to also think about what are the trends? What are people wanting? What are the designers looking for? How can we be innovative and also keep sustainability in mind?
Oh, wow.
All those different things are part of what a textile, leather, and footwear researcher does.
Wow. So you really have to be on top of like everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're really looking at the big picture and how can you make these products better, more effective, more sustainable, and really thinking about the future of fashion.
So what's it like? What's the day-to-day? Or is there no such thing as a day-to-day for a textile, leather, and footwear researcher?
Yeah, I don't know that there is a typical day. I mean, of course, they work in offices and they're in labs a lot of the time, but they might also be traveling to conferences or visiting manufacturing sites or collaborating with other experts in the field.
Oh. Because they have to work with all kinds of different people, like material scientists, chemists, engineers. They might even work with physicists sometimes.
Wow. So you really have to have that, like, science brain, it sounds like.
You really do. A good, solid understanding of science is really important.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we know that they need that strong foundation in science, but what else? What are we going to find out?
Well, the surprising thing is how important communication and those soft skills are in this job.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because think about it, you're taking all this complex science and you've got to explain it in a way that people who aren't scientists can understand.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So like you might be talking to a room full of fashion designers
Hmm.
and you have to explain, a new type of fabric or a new material or something like that.
Makes sense.
Or even something like advocating for more sustainable practices to people who make the decisions. So you got to be able to talk the talk.
Wow, that's a really good point. I wouldn't have thought about that. So what about the education? What do you need to get into this field? I'm guessing it's a lot of science, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Definitely a strong science background is really important. Like we're talking chemistry, material science, even some engineering can be really helpful.
Okay, so definitely gotta love science class if you want to go this route.
You got it.
Yeah.
We're talking about an 83% knowledge requirement for chemistry
Yeah.
from what RoleCatcher says. So
Wow.
yeah, pretty high.
So those chemistry classes, they're not a joke.
No, they are not. But the thing is, it's not just about what you know at graduation
Oh, okay. What else then?
because this field is constantly changing.
Oh, yeah, fashion
Wow.
changes all the time.
Yeah, there are always new technologies, new materials, new ways of doing things. It's really important to be constantly learning and growing and staying on top of everything that's new.
So, like, how do you even do that? Is it reading a bunch of journals or something? Like, how do you stay on top of all that?
Oh, for sure. Journals, industry events, conferences, it's wild. Like they're even making leather alternatives out of pineapple leaves and mushrooms these days. So
Oh, wait, what? Pineapples and mushrooms? That's
yeah,
amazing.
crazy, right? They're doing things with nanotechnology to make fabric stain-proof and self-cleaning. 3D printing is becoming a big thing, especially for shoes.
Wow, 3D printed shoes. That's wild. So it's like you get that science foundation and then you get to be on the cutting edge of all this new stuff too.
Exactly. It's a really exciting field to be in.
Okay, so let's say you do have that education, you're keeping up with everything. What's it like to actually work in this field? Like, what are the different stages of your career look like?
Well, you're probably going to start out as like a research assistant, maybe a junior researcher, just learning the ropes, working on pieces of bigger projects, lots of experiments, analyzing data, maybe presenting your findings.
Mhm.
It's all about building that experience.
Right, got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
But then as you get more experience, you can start taking on more responsibility, leading your own projects, maybe even mentoring those newer researchers that are just starting out.
Okay, so there's definitely a path for moving up in this field.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think one of the coolest things is you can really specialize.
Oh, that's cool. Tell me more about that. What does that look like?
Well, let's say you're super passionate about sustainability. You could become like the go-to expert on eco-friendly materials, finding those alternatives. Or maybe you're into wearable tech, like smart fabrics. Then you could go in that direction.
Oh, that's really cool. So you can take it in whatever direction you can kind of find your niche.
Exactly. There's a lot of flexibility there. And RoleCatcher mentioned certifications, too, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, yeah. What's the deal with that? Is that important in this field?
Yeah, I think it can be. It's a way to show that you're really serious about what you do. Like, you've got that extra knowledge.
Okay.
Things like textile testing or leather technology.
Okay. Very specific.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a way to set yourself apart, to show employers that you've got those specific skills.
Right. So you're not just like learning about this stuff on your own. You've actually gotten certified.
Yeah, exactly. And some people in this field even end up starting their own businesses.
Really? Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a very entrepreneurial field if you're into that sort of thing. You could like develop your own kind of fabric,
Oh.
like a new material or something.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. Or even like a more sustainable type of leather or something. There's a lot of possibilities.
Wow. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from what it actually takes to be a textile, leather, and footwear researcher to even starting your own business. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners who might be thinking about this career path?
I would say if you're passionate about science and you love the idea of seeing your work come to life in the things we use every day, this could be an amazing field for you.
I totally agree. This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I had no idea how much goes into the research and development of the materials that we use all the time.
It's really incredible when you think about it.
It really is. And with the way that technology is advancing, I can only imagine how this field is just going to keep getting more and more innovative and more interesting. So, listeners, if you're intrigued, be sure to check out RoleCatcher. That's where we get all this cool info, and they have tons more on their site. And with that, I think that wraps up another deep dive. Until next time.